Hello from London. Here I am with Teddy. Say hello, Teddy. Hello, everybody. Today's little talk is about good person, God person, and grumpy person. Grumpy bear, maybe. So, what is the difference between being a good person, a godly person, and why sometimes are godly people kind of grumpy people? Well, lots of people today say, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person. Now, a preacher in India, he said once, he said, well, we're all good people if we compare ourselves to Al Capone. But are we good people if we compare ourselves to Jesus? Are we good people if we compare ourselves to Mother Teresa? You see, what are we comparing ourselves to? And in a talk I was listening to this morning, someone said, well, the difference between a good person and a godly person is that a godly person chooses and searches to do God's will. Whereas a good person obviously does what they think is good or bad, but might not necessarily be God's will. Now, for example, before I was converted, if you like, I didn't go to Mass, I didn't pray, I didn't think too much. I was an actuary, I had money, and I didn't think I was a bad person. I didn't think I was the best person in the world, but I suppose, if I'm honest, I thought I was reasonably good. Now, I didn't really care too much about other people. I wasn't concerned about the poor. I wasn't concerned really about any major group of people. But I was just doing my own thing. I had an apartment. I had a car. I gave birthday presents to my brothers and sisters and things like that when it was their time. And I was just minding my own business. But you see, God was looking on at me thinking, knock, knock, Michael. There's a big bad world out there. Lots of broken people. Lots of people need help. I need your help. And I guess I was just a good person that had no time for God. And when my life fell apart and when God opened my eyes, then I seen what it's like to be a godly person. And a godly person is someone who relies on the power of the Holy Spirit. And through the power and influence of the Holy Spirit, is willing to do things and give their life to God, to help God, and do things and get involved in things that before they would have seen as none of their business. Like I could say, what have those poor people got to do with me? None of my business. What have those depressed people got to do with me? None of my business. What has the neighbours got to do with me? None of my business. I'm just a good person minding my own business. I could even wrap it up in virtue. But you see, when God enters our lives, He stretches us. He stretches us because He changes our idea of family into the human family. He stretches us because He changes our idea of what's my business into what's God's business. And you see, when God enters our lives, He stretches us in many, many ways. And that's why when we begin to follow God, we feel the stretch. It's going to be hard. And that's why many times you'll meet godly people who can be kind of grumpy people. Oh, and anybody that knows me knows that I can be quite grumpy at times. But why is that? Well, when we're stretched, when we're under pressure, when we're doing this and that and the other, when we're getting abused, when we're getting mocked, when we're finding things hard, when we're searching and seeking God's will and it seems like He's not answering, when it seems that God is asking us to do more than we're able for, it's going to bring up our grumpy side. It's going to bring up the aches and the pains and all sorts of things. But yet it's in doing that gets purified and that we get strengthened. Now you will often find people who don't follow Jesus, who don't take prayers too seriously, who don't really give a crap, if I use that word, about anybody except for themselves and their own little lives. Sometimes they seem like they've got more virtue. Sometimes they seem nicer people, they seem happier people, and on the outside it could seem like they're even better. But yet God looks down on them and sees things differently. You see, God sees them just like a veneered piece of plywood that they look okay on the outside, but beneath the surface, there's no substance. They're not doing anything with their lives. They don't really stand for anything. They don't really stand for anybody. They don't get involved. And their trinity is basically me, myself, and I. And so today, my message to you is don't be fooled into thinking it's enough to be a good person. It's not. Jesus says, he who loves me will take up his cross and follow me. And so following God and following Jesus mean following Jesus' ways, Jesus' plan for your life. And at times that is very, very difficult. And in the difficulty, you will find it hard. You will struggle. And at times you will be moaning and you will be grumpy, just like Jesus found it so difficult walking up to Calvary, and he even fell 3 times. But it's in the perseverance, it's in the process, it's in the surrender to Jesus' will that you will be purified and that you will reach heaven. And so, very simply today, be good, certainly, but before being good, be holy. Search God's will for your life. Search God's will for all aspects of your life, relationships, and be humble and seek Him, search Him, and you will find that there's many things and many places in your life where you too need an immense amount of healing. And then you will humble yourself and you will see the Christian people at times who you might think is hypocrites, that are grumpy or this or that or the other. You will see why, because they're under pressure. They're in the fire of purification. And so from me, from Teddy, have a wonderful day. Try all the same not to be too grumpy, but if you are, be holy and grumpy at the same time, and realize that he who perseveres to the end will be saved. Thanks for watching.